when we give up? What happens to the lives of those that are dependent on us when we give up? What happens on the other side of defeat? Who do we serve then? When we fight and we are victorious, we know that we are serving God. But if we do not fight and we get defeated, who are we serving then? Every diabolical demon that can come into your life. When you don't fight against pornography, guess who you serve? When you don't fight against anger, guess who you serve? When you don't fight against the enemies of your soul, you end up serving the devil. It is not maybe, maybe not. It's a definite.
Right.
Only the strong survive. Only those that stand to fight shall be victorious. We have to understand that we serve a living God.
Yes, we do. Amen.
And the things that happen are on purpose. They are designed by God. We have to understand the cause. I know why I'm pastor. It's not for a paycheck.
Amen.
I get a paycheck. That's not why I'm pastoring. I'm pastoring because souls are on the line. Don't you understand that there are many times I decided I don't want to do this no more. But what happens to the people? I know plenty of pastors that have thrown in the towel. What is happening to those people they're wandering right now, looking for churches, looking for a place. God planted them there, and then the person that's supposed to be leading them says, I'm not going to do it. And now what is happening to them? After the man of God has been defeated. David said, is there not a cause? Don't come at me talking about where's those sheep. This man coming out here is defying the living God that we serve. John chapter 12. When you realize you're in this for a reason, it's easier to stay in the fight.
Yes, amen.
It's in John chapter 12, verse 27. Let's start at verse 23. Jesus answered and said to them, the hour has come that the Son of Man should be glorified. John chapter 12. He said, and when he's talking about it, he's knowing it's time for me to die. The time has come. I've arrived at that time. Verily, verily, I say unto you, except the corn of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abideth alone. But if it die, it bringeth forth much fruit. He says, I understand. My death has a purpose to it. It's not in vain. He that loveth his life shall lose it. He that hateth his life in this world shall keep it unto eternal life. If any man serve me, let him follow me. Where I am, there shall also my servants be. If any man serve me, him will my Father honor. Now is my soul troubled. And what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour. But for this cause. He recognized that he was getting ready to suffer and die. And his soul was troubled about it. You can be troubled about things, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with being troubled about your scenarios, your situations, your circumstances. But listen, that situation is not catching God off guard. Amen. He said, but what shall I say? For this cause. This suffering, this struggle, there's a reason, because there's something greater involved in the struggle. Because John chapter 18, I'm going to move right to that verse as I talk about it. John chapter 18, verse 37. Jesus has a dialogue with Pilate. Starting at verse 33, Pilate begins to talk back and forth with Jesus. Pilate enters the judgment hall again and calls Jesus and says to him, art thou the king of the Jews? And Jesus answers him saying, sayest thou this thing of thyself, or did others tell it thee of me? Pilate answered, am I a Jew? He kind of gets a little attitude. Thy own nation and the chief priests have delivered thee unto me. And what hast thou done? Jesus said, listen, my kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then would my servants fight, that I should not be delivered to the Jews. But now is my kingdom not from hence. Pilate therefore said unto him, art thou a king then, Jesus? Then Jesus answered, thou sayest I am a king. To this end was I born, and for this cause came I into the world. It is a concept that we often don't even consider, even though it's very clear in the scripture. The Lord told Jeremiah that when you were in your mother's womb, I called you. Paul tells us in the book of Romans that we were saved from the foundations of the world. From the beginning of time, God already knew. Brother Hudson, you're going to be a pastor. And Jesus saying, I came in this world, I was born for this particular purpose, to suffer and to die on the cross, because the things that God does in our life are purposeful. Amen. You have to understand there is a cause behind what God is doing in your life. And you have to ask God, what is it? See, going to church is just a part of being saved. That's not really the whole big picture of what God is trying to do with you. Sometimes Christendom is all about going to church. It's not really about going to church. You come to church so you can get instruction, so you can hear the voice of God. So God can minister to you and talk to you, and He can give you your mandate, that what He wants you to do, something that He has already decided long, long time ago before you even came into existence.
Right, right.
And He puts gifts and talents in you for the purpose that only you can do, no one else can do.
Amen. No
one else could die on the cross but Jesus. No one else could come and pay the price for our sin. Everyone was a sinner. There was no one that could be found. No one could plant this church in this valley but me.
Amen.
The shield of faith was ordained by God, and God ordained me before He ever made me a pastor that you're going to plant a church in Arizona. And He told me when I was in Michigan, you're going to have a multicultural church in the midst of a city that's all black people. I was like, oh, that don't sound right to me. And then He sends me to Chandler to plant a church. And while I'm running around trying to give flyers to every black person, the Lord said, what are you doing? I'm not trying to offend nobody tonight, but you need to hear this. There's purpose in God. And we got to line up with the purpose of God, not with our purpose. And I said, I'm passing out flyers. He said, no, you're not doing what I called you to do. I told you to build a multicultural church, and you just passed 5 people up. To run over to somebody way over there, they ain't coming to your church anyway. And I began to purposely say, God, how do we do it? And we have to keep asking ourselves, even today, Lord, how can we do what you're calling us to do? How? This thing is not done in a corner. God already knew what He was going to do, and it's wide open for us to see what God is doing. He's bringing all kind of people into this ministry. All kind of people come through and visit. God, how can we grab a hold of them? How can we keep them? How can we do what you're calling us to do? We have people visiting us and we ain't outreaching, not hardly nothing. People just come and I'm like, how'd you come? I was just passing by. 3 people that came on Sunday was like, I was like, why you came? Well, the Holy Ghost led me over here.
Hallelujah.
Because even if we don't do it, God will send them because God is doing this. But imagine if we get on board with what God is doing, how much greater the work will be accomplished. 2 Corinthians chapter 1. Understand your cause. And this one I think is very important. Understand that trouble is part of ministry. 2 Corinthians chapter 1. Sometimes people can say, in trouble coming over, man, I was doing so good when I wasn't saved. Yeah, probably. You know, I wasn't doing nothing. But serving the devil, and so he was, he was happy. He said, right on over there, stay drunk. Sit right there, drunk. Stay right over there, whoremonger. Just keep on whoremongering around. As long as you're doing what the devil wants you to do, of course you're going to have no trouble. But the moment you serve God, and this is what we don't teach people. People get out of the fight because they're like, oh, there's so much trouble. Listen, you need to understand that trouble is part of ministry. You're not going to do ministry without trouble. It's not going to happen.
Right.
2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 7. Look at this. And so this thing is so good right here. I'm going to read the whole chapter. Let's just start at verse 7. And I hope of you is steadfast, knowing that as you are partakers of the sufferings, so shall you be also of the consolation. So even though you're going to go through suffering, God's going to console you. You're partakers of the suffering, no problem. You're going to be partakers of the consolation. That means the Lord will console you. He will be there to strengthen you through your struggles. For we would not, brethren, have you ignorant of our trouble, which came to us in Asia, that we were pressed out of measure, above strength, insomuch that we despaired even of life. Oh my goodness. But we had the sentence of death in ourselves, that we should not trust in ourselves, but in God which raises the dead. What does he say in verse 9? He's saying God allowed this thing to happen so that we can learn not to trust ourselves. Because if you do ministry without trouble, you begin to think it's you that's doing it. But God will allow such a pressure to come against you that you know it's God delivering you. But we had the sentence of death in ourselves, that we should not trust in ourselves, but in God, who raises the dead, who delivered us from so great a death, and does deliver, in whom we trust that it will yet deliver. It's part of ministry, it's trouble. 2 Corinthians 4 and 8. Wherefore, seeing we have received this ministry, we faint not. We know the gospel is here to a lot of people, but God has revealed it to us. He says we preach not ourselves, but Jesus Christ. Your servants for Jesus' sake. He gets down to verse 8, says we're troubled on every side, yet not distressed. This word distress means limited. Even though we're troubled on every side, there is no limitation on what God's doing in us. We are perplexed, but we're not in despair. The word perplexed is not able to understand what God is doing. You know, Paul didn't understand everything, but he just kept flowing with the Lord. He tried to go here, tried to go there. The Lord said, no, I want you to go to Macedonia. Well, he went to Macedonia, and then that's when he ran into all kinds of trouble. These people got saved. And it's like, he was like, I'm troubled on every side, yet God has not limited me from my effectiveness. I'm perplexed. I don't really understand what's going on, but I'm not despaired. Despair means to give up. I'm persecuted, but God has not left my side. I'm not forsaken. Even in the midst of my persecution, the Lord is right there. I'm in prison, but I'm just praising the Lord. And the Lord opens the prison doors. I'm trying to do the work of God, but I have a tumor. But the Lord gives me a miracle. Amen. I'm cast down, but I'm not destroyed. Yeah, the devil gives me a black eye sometimes and knocks me down and kicks me real good. But listen, he ain't destroyed me. I just pop right back up. I have a bounce back spirit. This is, you have to understand the trouble of ministry. Things will happen, but listen, God ain't going nowhere. Bounce back, jump up, get on your feet, do what God has called you to do, because there's a purpose in mind. He says, always bearing about in the body the dying of the Lord Jesus, that the life also of Jesus Christ might be made manifest in our body. The life that Christ lived, going about doing good, casting out devils, healing people of sicknesses. Those are the things God wants to go do through you. Those things happen when you go through the struggle and you deal with the persecution and the affliction and the trials. As you just stay in there, God will operate through you.
Amen.
This thing is all about Jesus, not about us.
Amen.
I used to go to the apostle's house when he was just a pastor and I just got saved. And I used to go to his house and I used to play checkers with him at 11 o'clock at night. And then I would go in his refrigerator because I kind of had freedom in his house. It was like his son. And all he had in there was milk and ice cubes. No food, none, zero. And I was like, wow. It kind of floored me. But through that affliction, it didn't stop him from doing what God had called him to do, winning souls after souls after souls. I remember I used to drive his car and pick up the kids from Sunday school until I blew the transmission up. I think I'll poosh. It's like, okay. He's like, well, we gotta get another car. It was his personal car that he drove back and forth to the church and drove his family around. And I blew the transmission up. Always bearing about in the body the dying of the Lord Jesus, that the life also of Jesus Christ might be made manifest in our body. Whatever we're going through is so that God can be seen in us. For we which live are always delivered unto death for Jesus' sake, that the life also of Jesus might be made manifest in our mortal flesh. So then death worketh in us, but life in you. It's all about you. Yes, we go through. Yes, we have struggles. But even though the devil's trying to destroy me, God is using me to bring life into your life.
Amen.
No matter what you're going through, you have to remember it's all about somebody else that God's going to touch. Because I'm tired. We live tired. Same thing like being in business. When you're in business, you live tired. Understanding the trouble. Jesus says, in this world, you shall have trouble. He didn't say that because it was a hypothetical. He said that because it was a definite. In this life, you shall have trouble, but be of good cheer. In the midst of your tribulation, be of good cheer. You write the scripture, you can write that down. John 6:33. The word good cheer means to have courage. Doesn't mean go around laughing, just so you know. The word good cheer means to have courage. In the midst of the challenges, have courage. Joshua, Moses is dead. Now rise up and take the children over into the promised land. Be very courageous, because when you cross over this Jordan, there's going to be a giant wall. But be very courageous. Be of good cheer. Understand that I've already overcome the world. Let's give the Lord a hand praise for his word. Thank you, Jesus. Bless the name of the Lord. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. My God, thank you. Thank you, Jesus. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. The Lord had one more point, but I'm just going to stop. That point was knowing that there is a reward waiting you. Stay to fight, because you know God's going to reward you for your efforts. No matter what, in the end, we win. In the end, we have rest. We have peace. In the end, we go to heaven to receive what God has for us. Paul says, I followed the fight. I stayed the course. Kept the faith. And henceforth is laid up for me a crown of righteousness. And to everyone who loves his appearance. Amen? Amen. You want to raise your hand for an envelope as we prepare to give